I find that men seem easier to please the older they get. Yet, most people say older men are more desired because they are more emotionally and financially stable. Wouldn't that mean they have higher standards? Story 1. My access to quality women has improved tremendously, while my tolerance for nonsense is now very close to zero. Story 2. When I was younger, I was all about growing with my partner, even if we weren't established. The idea of going through that journey together seemed fitting and romantic. Right now, the idea of having a partner in crime sounds great, and it is still something I would like. At the moment, I am trying to focus on upgrading myself and attracting others with that energy. I would say one of the main qualities I look for is emotional intelligence and humility. My tolerance for nonsense is very low, and I do not invest unless the chemistry is real. I let people know who I am and what I am about, and if it does not mesh well, I leave. I honestly like how things are now. Story 3. When you are young, you mostly want to date an attractive girl. It makes you feel good, a little ego boost and all. At my age now, I have been around enough to know when a woman will drive me crazy in the long run, and it is an instant pass. I know exactly what I like and who I will connect with, and I do not have the time, energy, or inclination to chase someone who does not fit that criteria. Story 4. Well, women found me ugly, so I started working out. This changed my life, and now I need a woman with a similar view on physical activity who is fit too. Story 5. I used to have standards like, needs to be fit like me, have a job, have a car, and be a nice person. With these standards, I had very little success in dating. So, I dropped all standards except no overweight women. After that, I decided to give overweight women a try. Now, I have fully given up on dating. Unless a woman shows strong interest in me, I do not bother with women at all. Story 6. My standards have definitely increased as I have aged. When I was younger, any issues could be overridden by intimacy. Now that I am older, her willingness just is not good enough. Story 7. I used to focus on finding a woman who was physically attractive and matched my extroverted personality, ignoring red flags even when I noticed them. I'm not old, around 30, but I've experienced enough to know better. It's obviously untrue to say looks don't matter. However, now I can clearly see whether we would make a good couple in the long run. If I see clear signs we wouldn't work out, she could look like Sydney Sweeney, and I would still pass. I've had enough of playing games, done a lot of work on myself and my self-awareness. I want a happy family based on a happy marriage. That's my focus now. Story 8. My standards have not changed much since I entered the romantic battlefield. What has changed is my ability to articulate them. I know more clearly what I am looking for, whereas back when I was younger I just flailed around and hoped for the best. Story 9. How old and how old-looking are you talking about? Yes, a 45-year-old man with 10% of his hair left, a gut, and making $60,000 a year might not be as picky as he used to be. From 25 to 35, I became far more demanding of physical standards. Story 10. I am much more confident today than I was when I was 20. I want to impress people and am no longer afraid to take my chance with anyone, whereas I would have been too timid in the past. Story 11. Older men are less willing to jump through hoops, though you may not need to do much for them. Their standards do not usually change much, but they are not as willing to become obsessed with another person. They become more set in their ways and used to their life. Sex is not new, and there is no need to pretend to be someone else. They are just as easy to get. You will just find that, on average, they are willing to deviate from their routine less. Story 12. My standards currently are to not have 5 children from multiple partners, not be morbidly obese, and have no current or prior history of hard drug use. This has excluded a majority of the dating pool for me. Story 13. Yes, they are much higher. I will not tolerate drama, stress, victimhood, or women who have a hatred for men. Story 14. Started from zero success with medium standards to this is not for me after a couple of decades. Story 15. If anything, they became stricter. I will not tolerate mental instability and manipulative behavior anymore. Story 16. I would just say different standards. When I was young, physical appearance and a good sex life were very important to me, which meant that I would put up with all kinds of bad behavior. Now, at 50, looks and sex are still important, but not at the expense of my peace. If you cause drama in my life, I don't care how attractive you are out. Because at the end of the day, I am fine by myself. Story 17. I know what a stable, mature, honest, good-looking man is worth. I am definitely the prize. I can change your situation. Can you change mine for the better? Story 18. I look at the younger generation dating, and it seems crazy to me. Female obsession with pick-me's, meaning not being difficult to a potential suitor, and guys thinking there's some magic formula, market dynamics, or line they can use is a train wreck to watch. The thing is, for the younger generation, it's far higher stakes than for me. They are going to have children with this partner and likely be together for a long time, so finding the right one is very important. For me, older, with kids, not looking to marry, but having female company is nice. I've mentioned it a few times, but the dating game flips completely by your late 40s. It actually starts in your 30s as the female biological clock starts ticking louder. But by your 50s, it's a totally different ball game. If, as a man, you have been successful, are fit, in shape, well-presented, and basically not a total jerk, then you have your choice of women. Men tend to die out quicker and earlier, so simply by surviving, you are way more desirable. This means you can now ask for almost anything and get it. Age gap? No problem. Bisexual women who are open to threesomes. Totally possible. Blonde? Big boobs? Yes, totally available now. I think nothing of picking up the bill at the restaurant, opening the door for the lady, sitting her down, and making sure she has the best seat, ensuring I am walking on the roadside next to her so she is safer on the pavement. In return, she understands that she should come to the restaurant with her hair done, nails done, and wearing nice underwear. As I pay for everything, this is where her expenses go. Also, she shouldn't think that making me a cup of tea when I want one is some sort of misogynistic enslavement. It's just more sedate and sane. The younger generation, women who think they are God's gift and constantly chase men out of their league. Men who are barely socialized and led to pornography use because they are constantly being rejected. It's just a dumpster fire in my humble opinion. Tinder? One of the worst things on the planet. Story 19. Older men tend to be wiser, and wise men understand that it is completely futile to place high standards on women. Young men have high standards for women because they are under the delusion that a woman will meet them. As men get older, this delusion fades, and their expectations return to where they should have been originally. Story 20. First off, not all of us older men are fully emotionally and financially stable. At 40, I am starting at zero basically. Headed back to school, working on my health, and trying to become better off financially by getting my degree. Dating is definitely different for me now that I am older. I have matured quite a bit in the past year, and I am a better partner because of it. If I were to go back into the dating world, I would have non-negotiables I have never had before, with communication being the most important one. The other day, my girlfriend and I had a fight. I fell back into old habits. I got mad and ignored her for a couple of days. I realized I was in the wrong, apologized, expressed that I should not have acted that way. However, I did need that space and should have communicated this to her. She accepted the apology, acknowledged I needed space because I was upset. She then said we could talk when I was ready. We did just that and things were settled. Let me tell you, that is not easy to find. Someone who listens and validates your feelings is not a common thing, unfortunately. But also, having a person like that checks me. It reminds me I cannot be petty or let my pride get in the way. Story 21. Wouldn't that translate to having higher standards? For some things, while other things would fall by the wayside due to lacking importance, changing priorities, or changing practicalities. Story 22. Having more options does not inherently make you want more. I have enough money to eat anything and everything I want in a given day, but I still only eat a couple of small, healthy meals because that is what nourishes me. Story 23. I don't think they have significantly changed. I think mine have remained pretty consistent from when I was 20 to now, over 40. Yet people tend to fail to meet what I feel is an extremely low bar, a low bar even for being a good person. The vast majority of the time, people seem to think they are some amazing catch and that they deserve an amazing partner, yet they cannot even look in the mirror and reflect on all the negative things they say in the first 10 minutes, let alone 60 minutes of meeting someone. Meanwhile, they sit there judging how I am not good enough for them, not realizing that I can sense that attitude. That alone tells me they cannot meet even the minimum basic standard. Story 24. After an ex-wife who was constantly spending our money, I always jokingly say a new potential dating partner has to have a credit score of 800 or higher. Story 25. I guess it also means having experience and gaining a good understanding of what is available. Story 26. I don't know if it's so much higher standards as it is wanting to skip the early steps in a relationship where someone's financial and emotional certainty are still in question. Also, I wouldn't say easier to please, but going back to the certainty angle, it's easier for me to express what I want because the time for games, figuring things out, and trying to turn someone into who they're not but you'd like them to be is over. I've had pretty high standards for those I actively pursued a long-term relationship with from the beginning, but would lower them when it was for fling, short-term, or friends with benefit situations. Nowadays, I tend to at least uphold some of those standards even then. Being attractive is not a personality trait or provide any real value in a relationship on its own. Story 27. Trial and error. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, some of which left scars. But I'm grateful for the lessons I learned after applying humility. Some of it was my own shortcomings, some were theirs, and ultimately I made bad choices in women. It was also the type of woman I'm drawn to and who is drawn to me. Just like observing others and learning from their mistakes, I took an objective look at my past relationships and learned from my errors. Younger men, please be mindful of the kind of woman you are getting involved with. The universe can play a cruel joke when it comes to quality versus chaos. Some of my personality traits are fixed, and some I can improve. The lonely years taught me to be comfortable with and even enjoy my own company since I understand my sense of humor. I have arrived at the point where I know I can take care of myself no matter what. The adjustments I would have to make in my lifestyle require a woman with whom I am extraordinarily compatible. I am comfortable waiting for that while evaluating carefully. I love intimacy as much as any man, but I am no longer willing to jump through hoops to get it. I can live without it and all the complications that come with it and be perfectly fine. Story 28. Men are not products and do not act like products. Being desired as we get older does not change how we feel about people. It is just them changing how they feel about us. A good man knows who he is, what he wants, and is stable and consistent. Changing your expectations just because the options have changed does not fit good men. Story 29. Ironically, my physical standards have improved, particularly fitness, wardrobe, and general grooming. I have always prioritized character and personality. Story 30. Not sure about standards, perhaps more about the criteria we value. My taste in women has changed dramatically in the last 25 years. I value personality, sense of humor, and spark far more now than I ever did. It is now much less about looks. Story 31. Personally, I wanted a woman who is available all the time. I used to think that constant presence is what builds and keeps a relationship. Now, I want a woman who has ambition and a dream. Yes, I think it is okay for the man to provide for the woman, but personally, it feels different when a woman knows how to reciprocate and not depend on you like milk from a bottle. With all due respect to all the readers, this is my personal opinion only. Story 32. Still the same. A legal-aged woman, preferably alive. In my case, it already feels like I am asking way too much, so I simply gave up a few years ago on the entire concept of relationships and adjusted my life to center around the fact that I will always be alone. Story 33. They, for the most part, have not. I always have and always will put personality first. Honestly, it would be great to date another asexual. Is that part of personality? Story 34. My dating prospects have significantly declined as I have gotten older, that is zero, but my standards have changed in the sense that, given the opportunity to date, I am now attracted to women between the ages of 40 and 60, whereas not so long ago I was only attracted to women under 40. Story 35. No women with children under any circumstances. I do not want my time tied to another man's responsibilities or petty whims if I take his child's mother out. Also, no larger women. I prefer athletic, slimmer women. Story 36. As a young man, if she was attractive and showed any attention to me, I was in love. After my divorce, my ex was a complicated and flawed woman who was the source of both the best and worst experiences in my life. It would take an extraordinary person to make me interested in dating again, and so far, I have not met anyone who has sparked that interest. Story 37. My standards became much higher. I learned to move on quickly from women who were avoidant, immature, or had low emotional intelligence. If you get triggered and project that onto me, accusing me of things that are not true, and refuse to believe me about myself, then you are out instantly. I discarded the scarcity mindset. Even though there are quite a few women who reach their 40s and 50s without growth, there are also many who have learned, grown, healed, and matured. I refuse to settle for anything less. Story 38. I see beauty where I would not have seen it before. I have never been tolerant of being treated poorly, but low self-esteem did leave me vulnerable in certain ways. I have been identifying and addressing those areas. Story 39. I can date unattractive men now as long as they are kind. I still would not settle for someone who is obese because I am very physically active myself. Story 40. I do not date anymore. No one is interested in me, and I am not really interested in anyone either. I am also not interested in chasing anyone or pursuing romantic relationships anymore. With one exception, they have all ended badly. I will invest my time and emotional energy in activities and people who already appreciate my attention. Story 41. Finding myself single for the first time in 2 decades, I was very surprised to see that my options have not changed since my 20s. I am still exclusively dating women in their 20s. Story 42. My patience and tolerance for dating burned out long ago. Nowadays, it is all about me. I focus on myself. Story 43. My physical standards have widened. I would not say they have fallen, but I am far more open to different body and face types than I was when I was younger. I still expect a certain level of apparent self-care. I am attracted to many women who are overweight, but never someone who has let themselves go. My interpersonal standards have risen sharply. Being attractive does not count for much if you treat me poorly or are obnoxious to be around. Story 44. I just turned 40 this year. I am both emotionally and financially stable. I am also more broadly desired than at any other time in my life. My standards have gone up substantially. Personality, compatibility, and personal habits are now of paramount importance over physical type. I am much more attuned to signs of potential emotional coldness or instability that I will no longer overlook even if I think someone looks great. I also know which kinds of personalities I get along with best, and someone needs to be within one of those types for anything more than casual. Physical attributes are still important, however, and I prefer younger women, ages 25 to 32, who are slim and active. I am also looking for someone mostly independent who has her own life and hobbies apart from me, but is not defiant or abrasive about it. She does not need to have everything perfectly organized, but she ought to be generally responsible. As far as connection goes, I will lose interest if someone is too detached, but if they are too clingy or trying to exert control or influence over my whereabouts, I will make other plans and we will start fading out of each other's lives. It is much more a matter of feel, not a checklist. If our sensibilities match, then it is full steam ahead. Story 45. Since splitting from my ex a couple of years ago, life has been incredibly good. I am 37 years old but lucky in my genetics, and it is the best. I would never go anywhere near my ex now. I loved her and accepted everything about her other than the rage and aggression. However, once I was pushed too far for the last time, I see her as detestable. Story 46. I think if I were single again, I would have some things I would be looking for that I did not the first time. I would never date someone with depression again or someone who needed multiple medications to manage their daily life. Story 47. I live in a rural conservative area. My standards have now become 1. Reasonably attractive, 6 or 7 out of 10 to my eye, not a supporter of Nazism. Literate. It's strange that I have to specify the last 2, but I learned my lesson. Guess who is still single? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.